All right, guys, it's been forever since our last video, about 4 months, and so we've got a big update for you, and we wanted to show you what we got done in that time period. We've still been working on stuff, but it's been busy on the farm, and now that things are slowing down, we're able to start catching up on things again, so check it out. All right, guys, the last time we did a video, you guys saw the inside. We had just done sheeting on the ends part way up, but we didn't have any interior walls. So now we've got all the first floor interior walls done, and we have the second floor deck on and the second floor completed. If you pan over this direction, we've got the stairs done, and I'll kind of walk you around and show you what we did and give you kind of a lay of the land. So this part here that we're in right now, this is going to be the living room or the sitting room basically, and we'll have a wood stove, a propane wood stove in this corner over here, and a sitting room. And then back here toward the back, we've got our 2 bedrooms. And then we have a bathroom over here. And here we have, this will be a laundry closet. So a lot of stuff got done in the interim, and framing up this whole thing, we had to go in stages. We couldn't do a lot on the outside of the building until we had the second floor done, and we couldn't do the second floor until we had the first floor interior walls done, because that supports the second floor. And so down in this area down here, we basically have our 2 beam runs. So this is one of the runs right here, and basically this is directly over the top. If you remember when we were doing the foundation, we put those 2 pony walls in between the perimeter foundation. So these 2 beam lines basically line up with those 2 pony walls down below. And so you'll see the bearing here where we have this bearing post, that is bearing directly down onto our pony wall down below. And so that's the case with all of our beams that we've got over on this side. So we basically have one continuous beam through the living room, and then over the top of the bedroom here. Those are actually 2 separate beams, but for our purposes, it's basically one beam. And then on this side, since we have this framing here with the closet and the bathroom, those walls actually support the floor joists. And so these floor joists that go across the top of the bathroom are continuous, they're not cut. And they sit on top of those 2 walls. And again, we have the bearing posts here because we have a beam inside the second bedroom here. And then over here, we've got a header basically for our open stairwell. And so that brings us to the stairwell here. The stairwell is complete, but these treads they're in here as a temporary tread. We haven't decided what kind of treads we're going to put in permanently. So right now these are basically in here just for construction and to hold everything together. And we'll finalize the stairs when we get to that point. And now you'll notice there's a gap between the wall and the stairs, and that is for when we do our stair trim boards. It's a lot easier to put in a continuous trim board, and then instead of having to notch a trim board around all of your treads and risers. And so that's how we're going to do that. This side will be open, so there'll be a rail right here, and then it'll be open above as well. And we'll show you that here in just a little bit. But one of the other details that we talked about that we hadn't gotten to in the last video was how the floor is connected to the walls and how that holds everything together. So if you want to come on in here, come on into the bathroom. Nice spacious bathroom, and we'll get to that layout here in a while. But so if you look up here, we basically have our ledger board that all of the floor joists are hanging from, and you can see at every double stud we have 2 structural lag screws, and so those are actually meant for this very purpose. And there are 2 on these 2 double studs as well. They're behind the joist hanger, and so they're all spaced for the manufacturer's recommendations. And so we have the joists, we have ledger boards on both end walls and both front and back walls. And then we have the joists that are tying everything together. And then on top of that, we have the floor sheeting that's glued and screwed, or actually nailed in our case. So that structure basically is what keeps the walls rigid. And that was the detail that we were working to get. So before we could do a lot more with the walls, we had to get that second floor in, because it basically holds everything in place for us to be able to move upward to get our upstairs windows and doors and framing and that kind of stuff done up there. So that is that connection detail. You can see over here we're going to have some storage space under the stairwell, and some of that might be utility space. Probably will be the water heater, the gas water heater, and the plumbing manifold that'll branch out to all of the different places where all of our plumbing goes. So that'll be kind of walled off from the rest of the storage space. Since this is going to be used as a rental space, that's one of the areas that we'll use, to store some of our stuff, and then also just to keep people from wanting to tamper with things or accidentally, mess something up. So, yeah, so we can go back out over here. So we've also got the electrical panel installed. This had a 100 amp panel installed before. We bumped it up to a 200 amp, and one of the only things that we found where they thought ahead was the service to the building. So the service to the building was 200 amps already, and so we were lucky to be able to just bring in the service. And I don't know if you can remember from way back before we did the demolition, but the service actually came up on the outside, and it came through the wall, and it was right in the middle of the stairs is where the electrical panel was before. And so we brought that in through the crawl space, and we've brought it up and into the wall here. And we didn't have a lot of options on where to be able to put the electrical panel since it's such a small area. But this place we're going to use here, and then this is going to be a full height mirror, which is allowed by code, so we can, as long as we can open it and have full access to the panel. So instead of it being an eyesore, we're going to have it covered by a mirror there. So, but that's another thing that we got done finally. And we just have a couple of outlets that are temporary. That one's not going to stay there, but that's temporary power. It's a couple of circuits. And then we have a circuit that's down in the crawl space for lights. And we still have our dehumidifier down there because we don't have our insulation in yet. So, but anyway, that's the expanse of what we got going down here. You guys had seen most all this before except the framing, but all the windows and everything were in. So let's go on upstairs and take a look at everything that's going on up there. So in the upstairs, we haven't gotten a whole lot done other than windows and doors. And we've got the sheeting done all the way up to the peak, which wasn't done the last video that you saw. So one of the huge ones that we got was this behemoth over here. And that is 7-foot glass, 7 feet tall. And it's about 12 feet wide. So right now we've got these temporarily screwed closed. That was just because we don't have any hardware on there. When we put the doors in, our locks were on order. And I can't remember if I explained this to you before, but these are going to basically be, this is a set of doors here in the middle, but we're setting it up to look like windows. That's why it's off the floor. And we're not going to use these as doors. They're basically for us to be able to get furniture in, big appliances and stuff like that with the forklift. So they're going to be locked on the inside. So we have a bolt system that we got that'll just have a pinhole key. So there'll just be a little hole in the door that we'll have a special key for that we can open and close the bolts. Otherwise, these will be closed with no hardware on the inside so that people can't open them. But they're just meant to be big picture windows so people can enjoy the view. And those aren't completely done yet. We still have to put basically the fake astragals on the door joint here because right now I can see daylight through them. So we have to put those in. And then we got to put the hardware on. So as soon as we get working on the outside of the building, again on that front side, we'll start working again on getting the doors finished up. So this is the other end wall down here is what you haven't seen either. We've got these two smaller windows over here are where the kitchen is going to be. And then this door over here is actually where the dining room is. And that'll be a door out to a deck outside out in the backyard. And then the two windows that you see up top are for the loft. And actually, just this week we got a phone call telling us that our beam package was ready. The loft is going to be all open big beams and stuff like that. Should be really cool. I'm looking forward to that part of it. It should be a real nice looking attraction or a good component to this whole build. So you can see also all the weird framing that we had to do when you're working with balloon framed, studs that are 20 feet tall that go all the way up. It's not easy to insert windows and headers and stuff like that. Luckily, the two end walls aren't bearing, but we're putting headers in, basically as if they were bearing. You can see these diagonal boards that come down that support the corners of where the roof transitions to a different pitch. And none of those really seem to be bearing any weight, but I think most of the structures in the sheeting on the outside there. So, but we still are supporting those like they are structural members. And then you can see all the old ductwork and stuff still hanging down from the rafters. As soon as we get the loft done and we can reach up to the ceiling easier, all of that will come down. There's an old propane furnace that's up there in the attic that we'll pull down. And then we also have beams that are going to replace all of this stuff up here in the roof. And that'll match the loft. So we have a lot of high work going on up here that we got to gear up for, and we'll probably have to get some scaffolding or something up in here to get that stuff done. So you can still see daylight coming in around the eaves and all up along the gable. So we still don't have this sealed up yet, and that's one of the next big things. Once we get to a stopping point on the outside where we're fairly well protected, then we're gonna get some heat installed in here so that we can progress and get stuff going on the inside. Getting insulation going is a pretty big thing. So, but obviously we can't do the spray foam insulation until we have all of our electrical and mechanical and all that kind of stuff. So big stuff coming up. In the corner over here, we've got all of our HVAC stuff. This is all for the upstairs, those boxes stacked behind the scaffolding over there. We've got our stuff down in the bedrooms for those. So we're gearing up for all of that. And a lot of the technical stuff going to be happening after this. So one other thing that we've had to deal with and we're going to have to deal with is, we took the walls that went up to this top plate basically, and we squared everything up as best we could, and we plumbed it so that our corners were plumb and everything was straight up and down. Well, I don't know if you can see this very well on the video, but all of these ceiling joists or rafters are basically tilted this way. And so the whole roof is actually racked to the north. And that's not a big deal as far as the roof is concerned, especially since we're going to be putting spray foam in there. It'll basically add a whole bunch of shear strength, so it's not going to keep moving. But when you have like huge windows and doors, both sides we've had to deal with for the doors, you have to put your doors in so that they're level, which means that the wall, either the wall sticks out past the door or the door sticks out past the wall, since the walls are leaning. And so we're going to have to get fancy with some of our trim around the doors so that we can basically accommodate for the discrepancy. Basically, you want your door frame or your jamb to be flush with the front of the siding so that your trim can tie everything together. Well, we're going to have parts that are flush, and then the rest of it is going to be either sticking way out or in a little bit. So we just have to be creative with our trim, but just takes a little bit more time, and hopefully won't be too noticeable since it's up so high. So the windows will be fine. We don't have to do anything with those, but the two doors, they'll take a little bit of finagling to get them so that they look good with the trim. Just one of those things with dealing with an old building. If we were resheeting the roof and taking all the metal off the roof, then we could have racked the roof also. But that is a very expensive prospect to re-roof everything. So we opted to just keep it on there, and we're just going to live with it from here. So that'll also affect a little bit with the kitchen cabinets. We'll probably have to fur that wall out a little bit to make sure it's plumb for the cabinets. But it's all part of dealing with an old structure. But we haven't just made progress on the inside. We've also made a lot of progress on the outside. And as you saw looking out the windows, we've already got snow. So snow always changes things and makes it a little bit harder, but we got to keep pushing on and keep moving on the outside to get that all buttoned up. So let's go down and take a look at what we got going on the outside. All right, guys, it's pretty bright out here with the snow. So you can see we got our door frame here, and that is actually a clue to the door that's going in there that we built. It's built out of sapele, which is like a mahogany kind of wood. That's for another video, but so that's just a teaser. But anyway, we had to get that door frame in so we could finish our metal. So we've done a half-height metal wainscot. We decided to do that for a couple of reasons. One, because it breaks up the color. At the eave we're at 12-foot high walls, but at the peak we're at 30-some foot high walls, and so that's a lot of expanse of a single color. So we wanted to break up the color, but also we get snow here, and so we wanted to protect the bottom of the building from snow. So if we look over here at the eave, the way the eaves are, we can't put gutters on here, and so we haven't had very much snow, and you can see all the snow just piles up right here. So, we had a little bit of snow and it shot out kind of far, but usually it just dumps straight down here. So if we did put gutters on there, the roof is so steep, when the snow comes shooting off, it would just rip them off. So gutters are not an option really here. But you can also see we've got our siding started on this side. So this is a rough cut fir, and it's going to be a board and bat siding. So this is the way we basically are cheating. We have a rough cut. It's basically a rough cut fir plywood. So it's an aesthetic product, and we've basically lined up all of our nail holes so that they'll be covered by a batten. And so when we get done with this, it will be a board and batten. All the windows will be trimmed out and everything. We got this siding up and we got it painted because we were getting a bunch of rain coming and the temperatures dropped. So we're at a point right now where our daily high might not even make it above 35. And so painting is a problem. So all of the siding that we have to do for the front and the rest of the back, you'll see when we go around there, we have to pre-paint the siding boards, and we got enough paint to do a second coat of paint. So we have primer and a first coat on here, and then when we get everything completely done, probably in the spring, then we'll come back and we'll paint everything all together with the final coat. But this is where we're at right now. So we'll do a buzz around here and you can see what we've done on the whole rest of the building. We've got both the both the side walls, and then we have work to do on the end walls still. And I just finished the metal on the front today, so we haven't done any siding on the front yet. So this is the final color. It's going to be a white barn. It was kind of a, I don't know, grayish bluish white before, but it looks a lot better than the before product, we think, and it really goes good with the gray contrast, we think. So at some point, if we have to redo the roof and we choose a different metal color, then we might paint the building a different color, but you can't do a red barn with a faded red roof, so we're going white. Okay. Something else that we still have to do, we've run the siding up underneath the eave, but if you come up and look up underneath here, we're still having to put soffits under here. And so the siding is basically run all the way up, and there'll be a trim board that runs along underneath the soffit. So we'll enclose the soffit, which means we also have to redo the fascia, because these are just like old 2x6s that they screwed up there. So I haven't decided exactly how we're going to do that yet, so that remains to be seen, but that's one of the details we have to do. That'll go a long way in keeping birds and bugs out, because right now we still get a lot of like flies are trying to go hibernate and wasps and stuff, and we get an occasional bird get stuck in there still because they go through the bats on the roof that were for the old wood shingles. They can still squeeze through some gaps in those, so there's still a lot of that kind of stuff, and that will mostly probably happen in the spring. The big push for this year is to get all the siding on and painted, and I mentioned that we're going to pre-paint the rest of the siding. So in the shop, we've got our pile of siding here under the black plastic, but we have a heated shop, and so we're going to take the stack of siding over there basically. And once our front door gets mounted and out of the shop, right now it's in the shop getting its final oil coat, we'll clean the shop up from all the sawdust, and then we'll go in there and we'll set up stuff so that we can paint the sheets outside and then set them inside, spaced out with spacers, and then they can dry in there. So we'll shoot them with primer. We'll stack them in there spaced out, and then we'll basically bring them out, shoot them with paint, and stack them back in there in a different pile. And so it should go pretty fast. We got a paint sprayer and did most of this. It should go real fast to get those all painted ahead of time, and then we can get them put up actually pre-painted. So, and then hopefully our nails, the nails are supposed to be exterior grade nails, so we shouldn't have like big black stains going down the building, but if we do, we'll have to reprime the nails and the black stains and then paint them again in the spring. So plus a lot of it will be behind the battens, so. So we've also got our front porch poured, and we have a little bit of extra video clips that I'll add in there so you can see, but we've got, it's basically the same size as it was before, only we did it in one pour instead of 3 or 5 uneven pours that you trip on all the time. I did anyway. And then we've got our relief cuts in there, and we've backfilled gravel up to it, so we're really sitting in a lot better position drainage wise than we were before we lifted the barn. So we're about, I think we said like 14 inches higher than before, and so that's allowed us to slope our concrete away from the barn, and then also the gravel still slopes away. This will be our parking area out here, but it's really allowed us more options in getting water away from the building, so that'll help keep it lasting a lot longer. I hope you guys have enjoyed the update. It's been way too long, and I have been making a video of the progress on the door, and I haven't gotten too detailed into like how to make the door, but at least I'll put out a video that shows what I did and kind of the progress of how the door came together. So thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe and share the video, give us a thumbs up, and we'd really appreciate that. Take care, and we can't wait to see you on the next one.